folks to reference later. During this webinar, I'm going to go over some new changes to our grant application process, as well as provide some information about the grant program more broadly for those who may be new. This should be relatively short, and if you have any questions during the presentation, please put them into the chat box, and one of my team members will be collecting those, and we'll go over them at the end of the presentation. My name is Riley Sunday, and I'm the Dirt, Gravel, and Low Volume Road Program Lead, which for those of you that I have not met before means that I'm the go-to contact for the program, project evaluation, and oversight during project installation. Normally we would have more in-person contact for many of the aspects of this program, but as you are fully aware, this year the conditions surrounding COVID-19 have required us to make some changes for the health and safety of both our applicants and the ACCD staff. Most of you may have applied or been awarded grants through our program before, so I'll keep this program overview kind of brief. If folks are watching the recorded version of this webinar, feel free to contact me if there are more questions about the program. So essentially, Allegheny County Conservation District receives money from the State Conservation Commission to administer this grant program. The program provides funding to municipalities for road improvement projects on publicly owned dirt and gravel and low volume roads. Low volume roads are publicly owned paved roads that have fewer than 500 cars per day. We use a traffic count validation form to confirm whether or not the road has fewer than 500 cars per day. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy to talk about it later. And I have a picture of what this form looks like on the next slide. These road projects should be targeted at roads that are having a direct negative impact on our streams and stormwater systems. This could be from deteriorated road surface due to poor drainage, to landslides, or undersized stream crossings. There are a lot of types of projects that are eligible for this program, but the roads must be open to the public for most of the year and owned by a public road owning entity. A key piece that makes this program unique is that it hinges on the implementation of environmentally sensitive maintenance practices. These practices are discussed during a 2-day ESM training, which project participants are required to have at least one person attend and receive certification through this program that participates in the project. This certification is typically valid for 5 years before it requires recertification through attending the ESM course, or by attending a 1-day municipalities day during the annual DG-LVR workshop. And lastly, applicants are required to schedule a pre-application meeting with the district in order to be eligible for the program. Now, I also mentioned this traffic count validation form, which is for low volume roads. Here on the right is an example of what that form looks like. Low volume roads need to be measured in kind of a specific way. So low volume roads must have fewer than 500 cars per day on a typical business day. So on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday during rush hour. Traffic counts also must be performed between March 1st and the week before Thanksgiving. When it comes to receiving funding, ACCD generally funds about 4 low volume road grants and 1 to 2 dirt and gravel grants each year. Project evaluation is done using a project score sheet, which you can see and is available on our website. After projects are ranked using this score sheet, they are presented to a quality assurance board and then the district board for final approval. This is just to ensure that projects are meeting all of the program requirements and will make the biggest environmental impact. So what do you need to do to apply for some of this funding? Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, there are three major changes to this cycle's dirt, gravel, and low volume road grant period. We have included some additional application requirements and including changes to our pre-application meeting. There have been some changes to the ESM certification course offerings and also extensions to current certifiees. And we have extended our application period. The application period opened July 1st and will remain open until September 30th. Here is a list that everything we need to see in your application packet. Because of our safety precautions, we've made some additions to this application packet with the goal of reducing or eliminating the need for an on-site pre-application meeting. Usually we require these on-site meetings and they give us a chance to talk about the project, offer suggestions for how the project can be a better fit to meet program policies, and so on. We're hoping that by providing all of these application pieces, it'll help us to achieve the same goal. So the first piece, if you've applied before, should be familiar, and that is the completed DG LVR application from the ACCD website. So I have our website pulled up here. The application can be found under the Grants tab under DG LV Roads. There's some additional information on the website if you want to take a look, but the DG LVR application can be found right here. It includes a one-page informational sheet where you list whether this is an unpaved or a paved road, the types of features you would like to include in the project, and there's a space where you can list things you would like to purchase with grant funds and things that you would like to use as in-kind contributions. We also have a space here for a project sketch. These sketches don't necessarily need to be done by an engineer or be extremely technical, but they're designed to give me and my evaluation team an idea of what your project's going to look like. There are some instructions on this section, and don't forget to include the project length. The second item in the application packet are these project expenditure sheets. While there's a little space up at the top where you can put your project expenditures, these sheets just give you a little bit more room. And we typically break costs into materials, equipment, and labor. There are sheets for grant requested funds and also sheets for in-kind funds. ACCD requires a 20% in-kind match. I also would like to mention that partial applications will not be accepted, so it's really important to try and get all of these elements. I will reach out to you if I've received most of your application, but try and put all the pieces together before you send it to me. A new piece that we've added this year that some applicants have done voluntarily in the past is include a project narrative, but this year we're making it mandatory. This narrative is your opportunity to tell me about the road, what is the damage, how you'll fix it, and what the impact this project will have on the environment and the community. Try and be specific and detailed. This doesn't have to be a novel, but a paragraph or so will do. We've also added the requirement for color photographs. Because we'll not be at an on-site meeting to talk about these projects, I need to have an idea of what the actual conditions are on the road. Be sure to capture the location of the features you want to install, an image of the upslope road conditions and the downslope road conditions, and if there are any key water features on the site. Remember, this is ultimately a water quality program, so knowing what the impact this project will have on surface waters is really important. And you also want to highlight any other particular pieces of damage that you want to make sure are captured in my evaluation of the application. Make a little note on the project sketch of the location of these photos. That way I can have a point of reference during my review. In the past, we've required a location map, and this year we are adding that in addition to a location map, you need to include a topographic map and indicate the drainage area. As I mentioned before, there is a 20% match requirement for all projects. And lastly, in lieu of an on-site pre-application meeting, we will now be having pre-application phone calls. To talk a little bit more about that, like I mentioned, since I won't be looking at the road before reviewing the application, bring some prepared materials to this phone call might be helpful. And that can be done by sending me digital photos or any kind of description that you might want me to know beforehand. Maybe this is a road that you've thought about a project for a long time. Maybe this is a new project. But whatever the case may be, you should send me as much information as you can so that we can have a productive phone meeting. Pictures would be great, but even sending the road name and the location of the project can help me to better talk through the project. Please be aware that changes may be requested to the projects after on-site project assessment or after funding is awarded, just to ensure that your project is meeting all of the program policies. Regardless of whether or not you have previously applied for a dirt and gravel or low volume grant for the project you're submitting, we will require this pre-application meeting phone call. Site conditions may have changed over the year, or there could be more that we need to talk about regarding the project. I will not accept project applications that have not had the pre-application phone call. The other big update this year is in relation to the ESM certification. Because many of the trainings have been postponed this year, Penn State has allowed for all participants with certification expiring in December 2020, meaning if you received your certification in 2015, these participants will have a 1-year extension before they are required to recertify. So if you were certified in 2015, your certification will remain valid until December 2021. For new applicants, if you have already registered for an ESM training that has been postponed, you should be receiving updates from Kathy Moyer at the PSU Dirt and Gravel Center. If you're attending or watching this webinar and are a new applicant and have not yet registered for an ESM training, please email me and I will be sure your information reaches the Dirt and Gravel Center. They are currently exploring alternative options for hosting the trainings because not only is this training a requirement, but we're always looking to reach new applicants and encourage greater participation in the program. And I received an update earlier today about these ESM trainings, and they are going to be sharing additional information with conservation districts about the ESM training later next week. And if you send me an email and need any of this extra information, just let me know. The last thing I want to mention before we turn it over to any questions is that we have extended our application period. Applications will be accepted from July 1st until September 30th. And we know that we're asking for more materials this year in the application, and things are moving a little more slowly than usual with a lot of offices working at reduced capacity. So we wanted to make sure there was extra time to get applications put together. This likely will not affect the timeline for award announcements too greatly. Normally, we try and have award announcements in late October or early November, and I feel pretty confident we can stick to that timeline. But in a worst case scenario, we'll be making announcements before Thanksgiving. And with that, I can turn it over to you all if there are any questions about these updates or about the program in general. Remember, you can throw them in the chat box. And yeah, let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks, Riley, for an awesome presentation on an awesome grant opportunity. At this point, there are no questions in the chat box. And as Riley mentioned throughout the webinar, feel free to reach out to her at any point. And we hope you learned something here today and share with other municipalities.
Thank you very much.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say thank you very much. It was clear to me, and I noticed the changes with this versus previous years, and good way to get through this given the circumstances we're in.
Well, excellent. Thanks,
Thank
Mark.
you.
I appreciate that. I will also be following up with an email after this presentation. I put together a little fact sheet that kind of summarizes this presentation, and we'll also be attaching any of the application materials and my contact information. So if you're interested in putting together an application, let me know, and we would be excited to receive your projects. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your week.